So, yeah, very good evening to all of you. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for this opportunity to be able to talk about how cloud is impacting the various facets of the government business. And indeed, a lot of these learnings have come in the last few years as we were working through many departments across the board, leveraging both the private cloud and the public cloud. And I think today we had some fascinating discussions. The earlier set of sessions really outlined some new opportunity areas. What I'll try and do in the next few minutes is just outline 4 key opportunity areas and how sort of cloud with mobile and with analytics and social is really addressing those big opportunity areas in the government. I'll try and give as many examples so that we have the context around where this is coming from. Just to start with, Microsoft also had this sort of a learning and trajectory over the course. In fact, as we look at pretty much a large set of state-owned data centers or even NIC, in pretty much all the data centers you have Microsoft Private Cloud powering them up. And that's been sort of a journey for us. And there were plenty of learnings that came across the board, whether you're talking about having these hybrid clouds as well running. So let's start with those 4 key points that I just wanted to make. Starting with the first one, that this whole notion of security, privacy, and all is completely taken up and gotten into a lot of multiple level of details as you look at public cloud. And here's where we believe what is really helping the world and truly sort of government is the notion of hybrid cloud. Like, if I were to just ask the question, like, how many of you here have gone deep around hybrid cloud or understood it? Just a show of hands will give me some context around that. Okay, so I know a lot of followers are there, a lot of folks back in have raised their hands as well. But that just tells that hybrid is becoming a real thing. And many of you might ask, what's different around hybrid? Across many government facets, what we're observing is there are a lot of benefits of a public cloud, but then there are a lot of regulatory requirements, compliance requirements, and other areas where public cloud, despite all its advantages, is not able to reach out or be able to help provide some solutions. And this is where we have seen massive growth around hybrid scenarios. In fact, after me, we will have a few more presenters who are going to touch upon those areas. And in the end, I will also talk about a large company which has completely gone around a public cloud notion. So where is hybrid really taking on? Hybrid across the board is giving best of both worlds. It's about giving you the control, the compliance, and all that you need in an environment that you manage, you run, you take care of in your own data centers. At the same time, give you very good advantage in terms of extending all the benefits of a public cloud. Let me give an example, and I will use one of Microsoft's own example, but I will also share an example in one of the large state departments and even the state of Barcelona, which went around this mode. Microsoft own example starts with our own performance management system. In fact, that's a great case where every year almost 100,000 or more employees of Microsoft are going through a process. In fact, right now it is a process where you go through appraisals and there is a lot of evaluation that happens. But that particular application is only used 2 times a year. Now, the best place to run a workload of that nature is public cloud, because you use that app only 2 times a year. More than 100,000 employees access it, which means a lot of servers and all have to be provisioned to be able to enable that. And then, once you're done with it, what happens to all those servers? What happens to all that capacity for that particular app? You can't scale that down. But public cloud is again a beautiful example. But at the same time, we had a challenge in terms of putting our employee data onto a public cloud for many compliance regulations as well. And the idea was to see, can we look at a hybrid cloud option? And truly that was an option that came up where all the employee data of Microsoft resides within our own private data centers, within our own firewall. But all the compute, all the processing that you need, which is truly the power of public cloud, is sitting on Azure, which is a Microsoft platform for massive scale public cloud. And then you're getting best of both worlds. Control and compliance for the data sitting locally, compute, processing the whole set of 100,000 hits that are going to hit only in those few days of appraisals. They are going to hit on a public cloud workload. So this is truly the power of hybrid coming into motion. You're separating data tiers and compute tiers in a way which makes, which basically gives advantages of both the worlds coming together. And this was a very Microsoft example. I'm going to extend it out to one very large implementation, state of Barcelona, when they host these massive games, and almost 1 million tourists visit them. And right from all the data that is related to their social aspects, to a lot of privacy and personal data that cannot be put on any public cloud, is run by state of Barcelona in a hybrid environment. So they use all the social, Facebook, Twitter for all the visitors that is coming in, their integrations with the login that they provide on a public cloud, which is Azure, but all the private data for its own citizens and many other nuanced information that cannot be put on is run by their own data centers. And that's a beautiful world that's emerging for the whole aspects of government, which is how do you leverage the power of both the clouds, the private cloud and the public cloud, but much more importantly in a way that becomes truly hybrid. And that's, those are many such examples as we look at it, but this is just the first point I wanted to make around where we are seeing ICT impact and how hybrid is making the most sense in public sector scenarios. Now let's come to the second aspect, and that's about making a business impact around, thankfully, I don't have any presentation that you see, so I'll be talking you through these examples. The second example that I'm really talking about, and it's a massive, massive untapped opportunity today, it's about getting data insights or the voluminous data that we already have. In fact, if you just look at walking to any government department in today, any public sector opportunity, there is loads and loads of information, some digitized, some is not, but there is plenty of information across many scenarios, and this information has to be funneled into, most importantly, insights. Now, when our new Prime Minister keeps talking about fast governance, getting into a decision-making mode, to be able to make decisions, you need insights. You need those critical inputs to come and say, hey, this is the right way to move forward. This is what data is telling us very specifically. And all of the data processing has to happen on a public cloud platform is the best place to make it happen. I work with a lot of companies in healthcare or manufacturing, and it's very easy for them to be able to figure that, to be able to run a high performance computing workload, HPC workload, with thousands of servers on a, for example, the largest pharmaceutical company in India has to do clinical trials. Clinical trials is a lot about patient record information as well. And that's private data that can't run on a sort of a public cloud in many places. They have FDA regulations they have to adhere to. But where do you run compute in such a way where in a matter of few minutes you can provision 3,000 servers, do a massive compute, and bring that workload back into your private environment without compromising on privacy, security, and all those concerns that come in? Again, the option is to be able to run these kind of workloads on a public or sort of on a hybrid environment. So analytics is becoming very, very critical, and increasingly as India moves forward in terms of decision making and a faster governments, data insights become super critical. And to be able to land that, we have this other option that we are talking about where both structured data and unstructured data, these two words are coming very, very close to each other. And many of you might ask, hey, what exactly do you mean by these two words coming together? I see these two words coming together predominantly in government and public sector scenarios. For example, when we are talking about tracking voice calls, and especially when our security agencies for many of our country's defense purposes has to track calls, has to track thousands of records, whether it's newspaper records or unstructured data, what tools do they use to be able to do that? We need to be able to do video analytics as well as text analytics. All of this is not put in any structured database today. It is all lying in multiple files at many places in unstructured format. And this is where at Microsoft we have been working with several governments worldwide, but in India we believe there is an unprecedented massive opportunity to bring this unstructured data sitting on multiple clouds and structured data that is sitting within the government itself, and being able to query them both to bring very meaningful insights. I typically take the example of a large retailer in India. When I walk into the shop, he's the CIO of a large company. He's the largest retail company in India. And he says, Srikanth, like, when I know a person walks into my store, I know exactly what they spend. Because I have these loyalty cards for this particular retailer. And I know what he buys, what brands he prefers, how much he purchases in a month. But I have no idea what that person does outside my shop. Right? And this is one of the largest retailers. So can I do, without invading on privacy and other concerns, is there a way by which we can figure out what do those individuals of that demographic profile do? Now you know what? The intelligence for all of this doesn't lie in our databases, doesn't lie in that retailer's database. But Consumer Survey of India publishes a very detailed report around demographic preferences by age group. And when you marry the data that is lying in some public cloud with the data that is lying with the retailer, we were able to come with some fascinating insights which help the retailer make some decisions. For example, we figured out the average person who walks into a shop is a Radio Mirchi listener, prefers Maruti as a car brand, and pays insurance premium to the tune of 20,000. That's their average. It's not Mr. Sharma or Miss Gayatri or someone that, we didn't go into the specifics of the individuals. It is a demographic profile card. But it's very, very useful for the retailer to be able to now take a very informed decision about the kind of programs they're going to run. Now think about the same scenario in the government world. There is a lot to be done with the data that we already have, provided we are able to hum and run those engines which are there in the public cloud, marry them with data on the private cloud or in your own data centers, and come with some very powerful insights. And SQL Server is a platform that's connected to the cloud that helps do that. So there's a second aspect that I wanted to bring. The first one was hybrid. The second one was about data analytics and integrity there. The third element is how do you enable faster and secure ways of accessing data. And this is basically an extension of the first point, which is around hybrid. And this is where, if you look at the way cloud platform technologies are being built, whether it's for massive government to consumer scale scenarios, public distribution systems, education, healthcare, that's where public cloud is the best suited for, because you're talking of millions of servers churning out, a lot of advantages that you get in there. But the moment you bring into department to department contracts, or within the government side of strict privacy controls and regulations that are required, that's all in the private cloud domain. And security between these two is tied to a most important element, and that's called identity. Very few people get this, that hybrid cloud is basically built on some fundamental fabrics related to identity management and security, and core of that security layer is with identity. With Microsoft, we have been innovating around this area for a long time, and both on the private cloud and on the public cloud, a common identity layer that cuts across these areas, so that the person who is authenticated to see some document doesn't get access to all of the documents that his boss has access to. Basically putting together that level of controls across the board. And this is across clouds, and this is not just with the Microsoft cloud or with some third-party cloud. This cuts across your data center, Microsoft cloud, a third-party cloud like an Amazon or some other vendor who has it, or a hoster who's running these applications, a common framework that cuts across. And this is the third critical element that I wanted to bring around how cloud is becoming sort of the way, and the way forward is to leverage hybrid security. The final point which I'd like to make is being a lot more thoughtful about which applications will run where. Now this is exactly the problem that large enterprises are going through today. Every CIO that we talk to, that we come into contact, would tell us, I'm not going to move everything to cloud. I will move these workloads to cloud, public cloud first. I'm going to run some of these workloads on my private cloud. And by the way, there are some that my hoster or the third-party data center is going to run. But how do we create a framework wherein all these set of application categories are made in a simple way, wherein you can actually make a public cloud, a private cloud, and a hybrid cloud breakup happen in a simple way, and this app categorization happens. And I think that's the fundamental point as we look at embracing cloud, being a lot more clearer about where you're going to run which workload. And that's the last point in my presentation. So I hope you had a good overview about the hybrid, the analytics, security, and being more thoughtful about how and where you run those set of workloads. Thank you for your time and look forward to your interactions. Thank you.